My hairstylist cloned my credit cards. She bought a house using my identity. My name is Marlo Brennan. I'm a marketing consultant, and I'm what you'd call organized. I'm the kind of person who shreds her mail, has two-factor authentication on everything, and pays her bills the day they come in. My life is a fortress of spreadsheets and calendar alerts. Or at least I thought it was. I was sitting at my desk on a Tuesday morning, knocking out my monthly finances. It was routine. I paid my electric bill. I paid my car insurance. I remember looking at my water bill. It was $48.20. I huffed a little. It seemed high for one person, but I clicked pay and moved on. Just as I was about to close my browser, an email popped up. It wasn't from a client. It was from Chase, my bank. It was just their free credit monitoring service, the kind of email I usually ignore. But this subject line was different. Alert. A new hard inquiry was posted to your credit report. That was wrong. A hard inquiry? I hadn't applied for anything. Not a card, not a loan, nothing. My heart did a weird little flip. I clicked the link and logged in. The alert was real. The inquiry was from SunTrust Bank. I don't bank with SunTrust. The inquiry was for a mortgage. My blood just stopped. A mortgage? I live in a rental apartment. I clicked the link to pull my full credit report. I waited the 30 seconds for it to load, my foot tapping a frantic rhythm against the floor. The page refreshed. It wasn't a glitch. It was a nightmare. I scrolled, my hands starting to shake. There was a new address listed on my file. A P.O. box in a town 30 miles away. A place I'd never even heard of. Then, the accounts. It wasn't just my Chase card. It wasn't just my personal Amex. There were 12 new credit cards. Capital One, Discover. A Best Buy card. A Home Depot card. All opened in my name. All listed with perfect payment history. The oldest one had been opened 14 months ago. And there, at the bottom, was the SunTrust mortgage. $485,000, opened 3 weeks ago. I felt dizzy. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a full-scale invasion. I frantically opened a new tab. I logged back into my real Chase account. Not the credit report side. My actual checking and savings. I looked at my savings account. The balance. My stomach just dropped out of my body. It was wrong. It was thousands and thousands of dollars wrong. It was $75,000 short. I scrolled through the transaction history, my vision blurring. There it was. 3 weeks ago, wire transfer. $75,000. The memo was simple. Personal investment, $75,000, a $485,000 mortgage. I'm a consultant. I can do math. That $75,000 was a down payment. Someone hadn't just stolen my name to get a loan. They had stolen my money. My house buying money, my future. My first instinct, my only instinct, was to call my best friend. To tell someone who would understand. My fingers were on my phone, my thumb hovering over the contact. Cleo. Cleo was my hairstylist. That sounds so trivial, doesn't it? But she wasn't just my stylist. She was my therapist, my confidant, my sanctuary. For 3 years, I had gone to her salon, Elysian Hair, every 6 weeks. It was a ritual. It was a $400 appointment every single time, 4 hours in her chair. And we would talk. I told her everything. I mean, everything. I told her about my job. I'd told her about my frustrations with T-Mobile, how my signal always dropped. I'd told her about my family, which is how she knew my mother's maiden name was Voss. I'd even told her the name of my first pet, my childhood dog, Jasper. I was just venting. It was just girl talk. She'd listen, her hands working magic, and she'd tell me I was a rock star. My mind flashed back to my very first visit, the high-end reception area. The new client information form on a clipboard. It was laminated, professional. It asked for my date of birth. For a birthday discount, the perky assistant had said. I'd filled it out without a second thought. And then, I remembered something else. Cleo had been talking about her expensive new balayage packages. She mentioned they offered financing. Like care credit, she'd said. You should pre-qualify. It just takes a second, and it's a soft pull. It's great to have on file. I didn't even want it. But she'd been so nice, so supportive. She handed me the form. I'd filled it out. My name. My address, my social security number. I'd handed it right back to her. I was still sitting on my floor, the room spinning. I didn't text Cleo. I called Chase. I was practically yelling into the phone. There's a $75,000 transfer I didn't make. It's fraud. The fraud department guy was calm. Too calm. He put me on hold. He came back 5 minutes later. Ma'am, he said, and his voice was flat. Our records show this transfer was fully authenticated. I didn't understand. What does that mean? Authenticated how? It means the two-factor authentication code was entered correctly, he explained. The text message we sent to your phone on file? It was approved. I hung up. My blood went colder than it had all day. A text. To my phone. I looked at the phone in my hand. It had never left my side. How? How did they get the code? It was impossible. They would have needed my phone. They would have had to be me. My hands were shaking. I was sitting on my floor, my laptop open, my real life and my fake life laid out in two browser tabs, $75,000 gone, a $485,000 mortgage, and the bank's calm corporate voice echoing in my ear. Authenticated with the two-factor text code. How? How did she get the code? It was impossible. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb shaking. I couldn't call Cleo. The thought of it made me sick. I needed someone who understood this. I needed someone sane. My thumb stopped on a name. Nico. Nico is my cousin. He's a total finance nerd. Works in the compliance department at a big bank. Not a cop, not an investigator, but he's the guy they send to give seminars on how not to get scammed. He knows the playbooks. I called him. He picked up on the third ring. Marlo? What's up? It's late. I just broke. The whole story came tumbling out. The credit alert, the SunTrust mortgage, the 12 cards, the P.O. box, the $75,000, and the final, impossible detail, the two-factor code. I was a hysterical, sobbing mess. Nico, to his credit, was dead calm. He didn't interrupt. He just let me get it all out. When I was done, there was a long, heavy silence on the line. Nico, are you there? Yeah, he said, and his voice was different. It was cold. Okay, Marlo, listen to me. I need you to breathe. You're not crazy. This is real. He told me to log back into my credit report, not the bank's dashboard, the real one from TransUnion. He walked me through it. What you're looking at, he said as I stared at the screen, is a synthetic identity. I'd never heard the term. She didn't just steal your number, he explained, his voice grim. She built a clone. A new digital Marlo. She used your real social security number as the foundation, but she created a new identity stream. He pointed to the P.O. box. That's the intercept. All the mail for the 12 new cards, all the statements. They all went there. She paid them off every month. Small charges, a Netflix bill, a tank of gas. For months, she was building this clone's credit score, making it look perfect, responsible. She was pretending to be me? A better, more profitable version, he said. This wasn't a smash and grab. This was a long con. A siege. I scrolled down the list of fraudulent cards. My eyes landed on the date opened column. My heart stopped. The oldest one, a Capital One card. Opened 14 months ago. Months. I hadn't just been scammed 3 weeks ago. I had been a victim for over a year. My therapy sessions with Cleo, my $400 vent fests. All those months, I was spilling my guts while she was in the background, building her army of credit cards in my name. 14 months, I whispered. But I've been her client for 3 years. Why wait so long? Practice, Nico said, and the word chilled me to the bone. She was probably perfecting her system on smaller targets. Testing the waters. You weren't her first, Marlo. You were her retirement plan. The $75,000 wire transfer? That was the big score. I felt sick. My sanctuary. My best friend. What do I do? I asked. I can't prove it. It's just a feeling. Right now, it's a feeling, Nico said. We need to change that. I can't look anyone up for you, Marlo. I can't. I'd lose my job, and I'd be breaking a dozen federal laws. But you can. What do you mean? This isn't random, he said. This is someone who had your physical card to skim and your personal information to get the SSN. It's someone you trust. So we look for a pattern. Go on Yelp, go on Reddit, Google reviews. I want you to search for the salon's name. Elysian Hair. Search it with words like scam, stolen, identity theft, nightmare. See if anyone else has a story. He told me to freeze my credit, which I did. Then we hung up. It was 1 a.m. I was alone in my apartment, a fresh pot of coffee brewing. My hands were steady now. The terror was turning into a cold, hard rage. I opened Google. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. It felt like a betrayal. Even now, I typed, Elysian hair scam, nothing. Just articles about hair treatments. I tried, Elysian hair stole, nothing. I tried, Elysian hair identity theft, nothing. My hopes started to fade. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was wrong. I went to Yelp. I scrolled through the 4.8-star reviews. Cleo is an artist. Best balayage of my life. My sanctuary. I kept scrolling. Page after page of 5-star raves, and then I saw it. One review from 8 months ago. Tucked away on page 7 from LSR 1 star. Beautiful salon, and Cleo is very friendly. But I'm giving it 1 star for a weird coincidence. About a month after my first appointment, my identity was stolen. My bank account was drained. Probably just bad luck, but it's the only new place I used my card. Be careful. My blood went cold. LSR. It couldn't be. I searched his name. I found his Facebook. He was real. I went back to Google. I was energized now. I dug deeper. I tried different search terms. Cleo Elysian Hair Review. Cleo Elysian Hair Blog, I found it. A blog post from over a year ago. It was on a personal finance blog. The title was, How a Haircut Cost Me My House. My heart was pounding. I clicked. It was by a woman named Sutton Walsh. She wrote about how she'd just lost her house to foreclosure. How her credit was mysteriously destroyed. How, when she traced it all back, the only new luxury service she had used in the past year was a high-end therapeutic salon in the city. She never named it. But the comment section did. One user asked, Was this Elysian hair? The same thing happened to my brother. Sutton had replied, I can't confirm for legal reasons, but yes, Ellis, Sutton, and me. We were all clients. We all thought Cleo was our friend. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't bad luck. It was a playbook. Cleo wasn't just a stylist. She was a predator. And her salon wasn't a sanctuary. It was a hunting ground. I had to force my voice to sound normal. I made it sound light, a little frantic. My usual end-of-my-rope self. I called the salon's front desk. Hi, it's Marlo Brennan. I know this is a total emergency, but my roots are a disaster. I have a huge client dinner. Is there any chance Cleo can squeeze me in for just a quick touch-up? The next day, I walked into Elysian Hair. The little bell on the door tinkled. That sound used to be a Pavlovian trigger for me to relax, to exhale. This time, it sounded like a warning siren. The salon, my sanctuary, felt sinister. The plush velvet chairs looked less like comfort and more like traps. The air, thick with the expensive smell of botanicals and keratin, felt heavy and suffocating. And then she came out, gliding from the back room. Cleo, beaming. Marlo, honey, you look so stressed. Don't you worry, we are going to get you fixed right up. She came in for a hug, and I had to force myself not to flinch. Her arms wrapped around me, and it felt like a violation. I managed a tight, brittle smile. You're a lifesaver, Cleo. My heart wasn't pounding with fear. It was a cold, hard, rhythmic thumping. This wasn't panic. It was rage. I sat in the chair. For an hour, I was an actress. I was playing the part of Marlo, the stressed-out client. I let her drape the cape around me. I let her paint the dye onto my roots, her gloved fingers massaging my scalp. Every touch made my skin crawl. I made small talk. I complained about a difficult client. I asked about her new assistant. I was performing for her, just as she had been performing for me for 3 years. I was feeding her the character she expected. As she was sectioning my hair, I saw them, her keys. They were on the little rolling cart next to her station, sitting right by her shears. A jumble of keys, but one was different. A small brass key, an office key. This was it. She finished the last foil. Okay, honey, she chirped, peeling off her gloves. I'm just going to pop in the back and mix up your toner. I'll be right back. Don't move. The second she disappeared through the employees-only door, I was up. The assistant at the front desk was on the phone, arguing with a vendor, just using the restroom. I called out, waving. I didn't go to the restroom. I walked to Cleo's station. My hand darted out. I grabbed the keys. My palm was so sweaty I almost dropped them. I walked straight to her office door. It was right next to the front desk, but the assistant had her back to me. I jammed the first key in. It didn't turn. My heart hammered. I tried the brass one. Click. The knob turned. I slipped inside, closing the door so quietly it didn't even latch. I didn't turn on the light. The glow from the salon was enough. It was a messy, normal office. Piles of magazines, invoices, a laptop, but my eyes went right to it. A gray 2-drawer metal filing cabinet. Not a computer. Something physical. Something permanent. It wasn't even locked. My breath caught. I pulled open the top drawer. ABC, my fingers flew. Brennan, there it was. A thick manila file. Brennan, Marlo. I pulled it out. It was all there. Stapled right to the inside cover was the new client information form I'd filled out 3 years ago. My name, my address, my phone number. And in the little box, date of birth, for your birthday discount. Behind it was the care credit application. The one I'd filled out just to be nice, to pre-qualify for a package I never bought. And there, In my own, neat, loopy handwriting was my social security number. Behind that, a black and white photocopy of my driver's license. I didn't even remember her taking it. She must have had the assistant do it, just to keep on file. While I was getting my hair washed, she had built a kit. A complete analog kit to become me. My eyes scanned the drawer. I wasn't alone. My fingers flipped past the other files. Reyes Ellis, Walsh Sutton, the name from the Yelp review. The name from the blog We Were All Here, lined up, filed away. Her little projects. I pulled out my phone. I had to be fast. I laid my file open on the desk. I snapped a clear, high-resolution photo of the SSN form. A photo of my license. Then I put my file back, but just slightly open. I took one more wider shot. A picture of my file, sitting right next to the file tabs for Ellis and Sutton. Proof. It was undeniable proof. I slid the file back. I closed the drawer. I locked the door, crept out, and dropped the keys back on the cart, jangling them just enough to cover the sound. I was in the bathroom, running cold water over my wrists when Cleo came back out. I sat back in the chair. My heart felt like it was going to beat its way out of my chest. I must have been pale. You okay, honey? Cleo asked, her eyes searching mine. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just a headache, I managed. The dye, maybe. She smiled, her best friend mask snapping perfectly back into place. Well, let's get you rinsed. You'll feel better. As she was massaging the shampoo into my hair, she was giddy. Giddy and bubbly. You know, she said, her voice bright. Things are just finally looking up for me. I just moved. A great new place. I'm so excited. You'll have to come see it. A new place. I felt the bile rise in my throat. I knew exactly where it was. 412 Sycamore Drive. I met her eyes in the mirror. I'd love that, Cleo, I said, my voice ice. I'd love that. I met Nico at a 24-hour diner at 1 in the morning. It was the only place that felt appropriate for the wreckage my life had become. I slid into the booth, my whole body vibrating with a mix of adrenaline and rage. I didn't say hello. I just slid my phone across the sticky table. I got it, I said. I got the proof. Nico picked up the phone. He squinted at the screen, zooming in on the photos I'd taken in Cleo's office. His face, which had been full of cousinly concern, hardened. He went still. He was looking at the photo of my new client form. The one with my social security number. The one with my birthday. The one with my mother's maiden name. He swiped. The next photo. The file tabs. Brennan Marlowe. Reyes Ellis. Walsh Sutton. My God, Marlowe, he whispered. He wasn't scared. He was furious. She didn't just rob you. She built an inventory. She had a kit. He kept looking at the forms. He was tracing the data with his finger. Name Daub, SSN. Mother's maiden name Voss. First pet Jasper. Phone carrier T-Mobile? He froze. He looked up from the phone and his eyes were electric. Phone carrier. She wrote down your phone carrier. What? I said. Why does that matter? Marlowe, he said, his voice low and urgent. Think. Go back. 3 weeks ago. Did your phone do anything weird? Anything at all? A dead spot? No service error? I shook my head. No, wait. A memory so tiny I'd already discarded it. Waking up in the middle of the night, grabbing my phone to check the time, and seeing that no service icon. I'd assumed it was a T-Mobile tower update. I'd rolled over and gone back to sleep. My hands were shaking again. I grabbed my phone from him. I opened my T-Mobile app. I didn't even know where to look. I went into my call log, my data usage, nothing. Check your text messages, Nico said. Look for alerts from T-Mobile. I scrolled back. 3 weeks. And there it was. Not a text from T-Mobile, a text to T-Mobile's short code. A text I had no memory of sending. I have to check my account. I'd texted it. And then I saw it. My call log 3 weeks ago, 2:17 a.m., a call to T-Mobile customer service. It had lasted 23 minutes. Nico, I whispered, my blood turning to ice. I was asleep. I was dead asleep. That's it, he said, closing his eyes. That's the SIM swap. He laid it all out. Cleo, armed with the files from her office, had every piece of my identity. She didn't need to hack me. She just had to be me. She called T-Mobile at 2:17 a.m. Hi, this is Marlo Brennan. I just got a new phone and I can't get my number to work. The operator would have asked for her security info. What's your mother's maiden name? Voss. What's your first pet's name? Jasper. Just like that, she passed. She ported my number to a burner phone in her hand. For those 23 minutes, Cleo was me. At 2:19 a.m., she logged into my Chase account. Chase, seeing a new device, sent the two-factor code. It didn't go to my phone, which now said no service. It went to her phone. At 2:20 a.m., She initiated the $75,000 wire transfer. At 2:21 a.m., she approved it. At 2:40 a.m., her work done, she probably called T-Mobile back. Oh, never mind, my old phone is working again. They ported the number back. By the time I woke up, my phone worked and my money was gone. But $75,000, I said, the number sticking in my throat. At 2 in the morning. Why didn't Chase stop it? Why didn't they call me? Because she's good, Nico said grimly. She's really good. You told her about buying your condo, didn't you? Bragged about the down payment? I felt sick, I'd been so proud. She mimicked it, he explained. She probably spoofed your home IP address. She timed the transfer to be on the same day of the month as your old condo payment. The bank's AI didn't see a threat. It saw consistent behavior. She used your own life's patterns against you. The betrayal was so deep, so absolute, I couldn't even process it. But the anger was a solid, hot stone in my stomach. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was an investigator. The house, I said, my voice cold. 412 Sycamore Drive. She's living in a house she bought with my money. And SunTrust gave her the mortgage, Nico said, picking up the thread. A $485,000 loan to a brand new identity with a P.O. box address? That's a massive red flag. Underwriting should have killed it instantly. Unless someone on the inside pushed it through, I finished. I was already on my phone. My fingers were flying. I wasn't asking Nico what to do. I was doing it. I pulled up the county property records. Property, 412 Sycamore Drive. Buyer, Brennan, Marlowe. Lender, SunTrust Bank. Realtor, Ramona Cortez. I stared at the name. Ramona. Cleo was always talking about her sister, Ramona. Her rock star realtor sister. I clicked out of the county site and went to Instagram. I searched Ramona Cortez. There she was, beaming, standing in front of a sold sign. Her profile was full of pictures with her husband, her top producer partner. His name was Hollis Cortez. I clicked his profile. His LinkedIn was the first result. Nico, I said, my voice absolutely flat. Hollis Cortez. Guess what his job is? I turned the phone around. Nico read it. Senior mortgage broker. SunTrust Bank. The air went out of the diner. The conspiracy just snapped into place, hard and ugly. It wasn't just Cleo. It was a family business. Cleo got the victims and the PII from the salon. Ramona, the sister, found the houses. And Hollis, the brother-in-law, pushed the fraudulent loans through the bank, overriding the red flags. That's it, Nico said. That's the network. She didn't beat the system, Marlowe. She had accomplices in the system. I looked at the photos of them, smiling, on vacation, living a life paid for by me, by Ellis, by Sutton. They're all in on it, I said. And I'm going to burn them to the ground. The fluorescent lights of the 12th precinct buzzed. It was 2 in the morning, and the place smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. Nico did most of the talking. He was good. He was organized. He laid out the file he'd helped me build, the credit report, the photo of Cleo's filing cabinet, the property records, the social media shots of Hollis and Ramona. He had it all in a 3-ring binder. We didn't get a rookie. We got a detective named Carver. He was older, looked exhausted, and didn't treat me like I was crazy. He looked at the photos from Cleo's office, his expression tightening. He saw the file tabs for Ellis and Sutton. He saw my SSN form. He nodded. This is good, he said. And it was the first time I'd felt a flicker of hope. But then he gave me the speech. He warned me that these investigations take months, sometimes years. He said the DA was swamped. He took our binder, gave me a case number, and told me to not call him every day. We walked out of the precinct into the gray pre-dawn light. The hope was already gone, replaced by a sick, hollow feeling. I had them. I had the proof, and the system was just slow. The next 2 weeks were a kind of hell. My life was suspended in acid. I'd wake up, check my bank account, still empty. I'd check my credit, still ruined. I was getting collection calls now, for the 12 cards I'd never used, and I'd check her Instagram. Cleo was still posting. Pictures of her new kitchen, the one I'd paid for. A selfie of her and Ramona toasting with mimosas. Sister time, she'd captioned it. She was living her life, my life, while I was in this limbo. Every post felt like a new personal taunt. On the 15th day, my phone rang. It was Carver. His voice was different, energized. Ms. Brennan, he said, I forwarded your file to a friend at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. They're very interested. It turned out the FBI had been building A quiet case against a mortgage fraud ring at SunTrust for 8 months. Their target was Hollis Cortez. The problem was, they couldn't figure out where his fraudulent clients were coming from. They just looked like ghosts. Your evidence, Carver said, and I could hear him smiling. It wasn't just a lead, it was the connective tissue. It linked their guy, Hollis, to a whole new conspiracy. An agent will be in touch. The agent's name was Reese. She was sharp, no nonsense, and she didn't waste time. We met at a coffee shop. She laid out what they had and what they needed. After weeks of their own surveillance, they had Hollis and Ramona dead to rights. But the case against Cleo, the mastermind, was still circumstantial. We have the files you photographed, she said, but her lawyers will say you planted them. We need one last thing. We need to tie her voice, her knowledge, to the fraud. She wanted me to wear a wire. It was a question, but it wasn't a question. They were offering me a front row seat to the takedown. I didn't even hesitate. The day of the sting, I felt like I was floating. An FBI tech, a woman who looked like she was in college, taped a small microphone to my bra. Just talk normally, she'd said. It felt cheap and surreal. I walked into Elysian Hair for the last time. The little bell tinkled. Agent Reese and another agent were already in the waiting area, pretending to flip through magazines. And there she was, Cleo, all smiles. Marlo, back so soon? We need to get you on a regular schedule. I sat in the chair. The cape went on. It felt like a shroud. My heart was a cold, hard stone in my chest. I just focused on my breathing. I could feel the small, square recorder taped to my skin. She was sectioning my hair, her hands working, her mouth running. You look so tense, honey. You need to let it go. This was it. My voice. I was proud of it. It didn't even shake. Cleo, I said, I need to talk to you about something. I'm in serious trouble. She kept her therapist smile on. What is it, honey? You can tell me anything. My identity was stolen, I said, meeting her eyes in the mirror. My credit is destroyed. My bank account is empty. Someone opened a mortgage in my name. The smile froze. It just stopped. Her hands, which were hovering over my head, went still. What? Marlo, that's terrible. They know who did it, I said, my voice dropping. They're investigating. They found the property. 412 Sycamore Drive. Do you know that address, Cleo? It wasn't a big, dramatic movie moment. Her hands didn't fly to her mouth. She just stopped. The comb she was holding slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. The color drained from her face. Her best friend mask didn't slip. It shattered, and there was nothing behind it. Just cold, hard panic. She looked at me in the mirror. Her voice was a tiny, cracked whisper. How did you find out? I just stared at her. My voice broke. So it's true. She started to babble. The rationalization. The excuses. Marlo, you don't understand, she whispered, grabbing my arm. You've always had everything. I just needed a way in. A start. You had so much. And I had nothing. It wasn't a confession. It was an admission. Cleo. Agent Reese was standing beside the chair. The other agent was blocking the front door. The employees-only door burst open, and 2 more agents, who must have come in the back, were already securing her office. Cleo didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just deflated. She looked at me, in the chair, with the foil still in my hair. Her face was a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Cleo, Reese said, her voice calm and final. You're under arrest. They put her in handcuffs. She was still wearing her little black apron, with a smear of blonde dye on the pocket. The next 10 months were a different kind of hell. I was in a legal purgatory, a limbo of pending. My life was on hold. I was the primary witness in a federal case, which meant I was still a victim, just in a different, more bureaucratic way. My money was still gone. My credit was still a crater. I was drowning in paperwork, affidavits, and a blur of bad coffee from styrofoam cups in government buildings. The FBI, it turns out, had been incredibly busy. They used Cleo's files and the server from Hollis's house to unravel the entire conspiracy. It wasn't just me, Ellis, and Sutton. They found 8 victims in total, stretching back 5 years. A web of stolen lives totaling $2.1 million in fraudulent assets, property, and cash. We were the Elysian 8, one of the prosecutors joked. I didn't laugh. The trial started in late October. The air in the courtroom was heavy and still. It was the first time I'd seen them all together. Cleo, Ramona, Hollis. They weren't the glamorous, smiling figures from Instagram. They were pale, thin, and wearing cheap, ill-fitting suits. They looked like what they were, common criminals. My testimony was the hardest day of my life. I sat in that wooden chair for 6 hours. I had to walk the jury through my entire relationship with Cleo. I had to talk about the therapy sessions. I had to admit, in front of a room full of strangers, how I'd told my deepest secrets to a woman who was taking notes for a con. Cleo's defense attorney was brutal. He tried to paint me as a scorned, unstable liar. He suggested I'd been in Cleo's office illegally. He implied I could have faked the photos, that I was jealous of her success, but I wasn't the only one. The next day, Ellis testified, a quiet man whose business had been ruined. Then Sutton, a single mother who had lost her house, the 412 Sycamore property, in a foreclosure that Cleo's network had engineered before they bought it with my money. We were a club I never wanted to join, but our stories, stacked one on top of the other, built a wall the defense couldn't climb. The real takedown, though, was Nico. He wasn't allowed to be my cousin on the stand. He was Mr. Romano, an expert witness on financial crime prevention. He didn't testify about my case. He just taught. He spent 4 hours with a projector explaining to the jury, in the simplest terms, what a synthetic identity was. He showed them how a SIM swap worked, step by step. He was the teacher and the jury was his class. By the time he was done, they didn't just believe us. They understood the mechanics of how we'd been violated, and then, the finale. The wire the prosecutor played the audio file. The whole courtroom was silent, leaning in. We heard the small talk, the snip of scissors. And then my voice. Do you know that address, Cleo? And in the dead silent room, Cleo's tiny, cracked whisper echoed from the speakers. How did you find out? It was the single most damning sound. It wasn't just a confession. It was the sound of a predator realizing the hunt was over. The jury deliberated for less than a day. Guilty. All 3 of them, on all counts. Wire fraud, bank fraud, aggravated identity theft, conspiracy. At the sentencing, the judge talked about the profound psychological violation of the crime. He called Cleo a master manipulator, who didn't just steal money, but weaponized human trust. Cleo, the mastermind, got 18 years in federal prison. Hollis, the man on the inside, got 10 years for bank fraud. Ramona, the realtor who laundered the properties, got 7. It was over. The house at 412 Sycamore Drive was seized and sold at federal auction. The contents of Elysian hair, every chair, every mirror, every bottle of shampoo, were liquidated. A check arrived in the mail 6 months later. It was for my $75,000. It felt anticlimactic. It was just, my money returned. A second check came later. $320,000. My share of the damages and restitution. It was a lot of money, but it felt small. It was the price tag the court put on a 3-year betrayal. It was the fee for my stolen sanity. I deposited it. And I bought a new lock for my door. It's been 2 years. I still live in the city. I didn't run. I didn't sell my condo and move to the middle of nowhere. I like my life, and I was determined to not let her take anything else from me. But I'm different. Changed. I'm standing in my bathroom, in front of the steamy mirror with a pair of cheap, orange-handled craft scissors. My hair is wet. I'm cutting my own bangs. They're uneven. The left side is a little shorter, and I know from experience that the back is a choppy mess I can only feel, not see. 2 years ago, I was spending $400 every 6 weeks for a perfect, sun-kissed balayage. I was paying for perfection. Now I have this $50 pair of shears and an uneven bob. And in a weird, sad way, I've never felt safer. I didn't just lose my stylist. I lost the very idea of a stylist. I can't imagine sitting in a chair for 4 hours, a captive audience, making small talk with a stranger who has their hands on me. The thought of it, it makes my skin crawl. It's the violation that sticks with you. It's a stain. It's been 2 years and the bank accounts are all fixed. The $75,000 is back. The fraudulent mortgage is a nightmare on someone else's legal file. But the trust? That doesn't just grow back. It wasn't really about the money. The $75,000 was just a number. The betrayal was bottomless. I used to call those 4-hour appointments my therapy. I wasn't wrong. I was the patient. And Cleo was the doctor, diagnosing me for weaknesses. I paid her, and paid her well, to listen to me confess my secrets. My mother's maiden name, my first pet, my frustrations with my phone carrier, my excitement about buying my condo. I thought I was just venting. She was conducting intelligence. I wasn't a client. I was an asset. I was a long-term project. She was harvesting me. Nico got a big promotion. He's not in the compliance basement anymore. He now runs his bank's entire national fraud prevention education program. He's the guy you see on morning shows in a crisp suit, telling soccer moms how to spot a SIM swap attack. We had dinner last month, he gets it. He never makes me feel stupid for what happened. I walked by the old salon space a few weeks ago. I was curious. The Elysian hair sign is long gone. The federal government seized all her assets, every chair, every mirror, every bottle of overpriced shampoo, and sold them at auction. The building space, which was also seized, is now a frozen yogurt shop. It's called Sweet Escape. The irony is so thick, it's suffocating. I was paying my bills last night, right here at my kitchen table. A small, boring stack. My water bill was on top. I opened it, $48.20. I remembered that day, 2 years ago. I'd seen that same boring bill and felt a flash of annoyance. This time I just smiled. I put in my credit card number, a new one, with a new number from a new bank, and I paid it. It was so small, so simple, so blessedly, boringly correct. It was my bill. For my apartment. And it was real. I'm still an organized person. I still shred my mail. But my fortress has higher walls now. I'm more private. I'm still friendly to the guy at the coffee shop, but my secrets, they stay mine. The things that can be used as keys, my mother's maiden name, my childhood memories, my financial fears, they're no longer small talk. They're security questions. I learned that trust is a currency. It's the most valuable one we have. And some people, even the ones who wrap you in a warm towel and make you feel safe, are just looking for a way to cash it in.